Okay, so for my project, I wanted to create a modern day sacred space. And for that, I'll tell you what a sacred space is. A sacred space is really any place that encourages spirituality. So many people think of temples, churches, synagogues as those places, but it's not just limited to those religious buildings. There's also places that just inspire wonder within nature, like a grove or a place near a waterfall. So in Japan, they have these tories, which these gates mark these sacred spaces that are really one with nature. And so if you see one of these, you know that that's one of these places. That there's no temple, there's no altar. You know you're at that space. And for my project, I wanted to sort of incorporate these two ideas together, combine the beauty of nature and with a man-made place of worship. And so I was inspired by Thorn Crown Chapel, which someone in this previous area did this. The architect was E. Jones, and in 1980 he made this in Eureka Springs, Arkansas. But so this is a Christian chapel, and for my sacred space, I wanted it to be non-denominational, which I'll mention again. And so for my modern adaptation on an ancient sacred space, I really liked and interested in the Parthenon in Athens, Greece. So I wrote a paper on this before and really learned a lot about it. And so I was really impressed with how the space it sort of is also a combination of the beauty of nature and a temple, but maybe not intentionally. So this is just a large, impressive temple, and I wanted to make a modernized version that was maybe more this century, and I wanted to include sustainability with it too. So I included passive heating, cooling, and lighting, and there would also be LED-powered photovoltaic system, or LED lights for nighttime, or when it's not so sunny and that the passive heating won't work. So, and those would be powered by a PV system located on the roof. And so what I took from the Parthenon is I kept the same dimensions, as you can see those there. It would be made of stone, marble, and concrete, just like Parthenon, but this would also incorporate glass, like I said. And one of the really impressive things about the Parthenon, especially for the time period it was created, is that just the dimensions it was made, they really focused on the golden ratio, and they called the number phi, which is 1.618. And so all of the widths to the heights or everything, so that's the ratio of the width to the height of the whole thing, and then even down into the details, like the space between each of those little columns, everything seems to all follow this ratio. And they were really very particular and exact, which is impressive for the time period. And they also went by a strict rule with the columns of the building. So this is the width of it, you would see 8 columns, and down the stretch would be 17, which the corner columns share. It's the 8th and the 17th. And the Parthenon is also located on this plateau, which, as I said before, I think that's what really incorporated it into nature and the beauty around it. But so I guess the purpose for that was mostly protection. So it was raised, and the Parthenon was located in the Acropolis, which literally translated as high city. And so there were other structures within there for the people of Athens to use. And it would also serve as if they were being invaded or they thought they were being attacked, the towns surrounding the Acropolis would all move up, and they could block themselves away up in the Acropolis. Also, the purpose for it being raised, I believe, is it's a place of worship. There are temples and statues and many buildings dedicated to the gods. And so when an area is raised, it's closer to the heavens. And so for this new sacred space, I wanted to keep it elevated for the same purpose, closer to the heavens, and also because just incorporated into nature, keep it nice in the area it's in, and really have it stand out and be something significant. Also, and you see my structure, there's also, to get up to it, there'd be a journey to the space, which would really provide for, I think, getting in touch with nature on the way to your destination, and would maybe provide some time for meditation and reflection. So here's the path over inside you can see the design of the sacred space I created. But there would be a lined path sort of up into the mountains to get to the destination. And then here's a floor plan of the space itself. This would be, this outer box here would be, or the middle box would be like a glass wall curtain, which would, so you could be either outside under the overhanging roof or inside there if you wanted to, depending on your wants and needs. And so the light would easily access that place, but you'd still be inside, sort of. And then there would be another room inside for more, I guess, if you wanted to keep yourself like quarantined off, not quarantined off, but like focused and really wanted to focus on what you wanted to, I guess it's non-denominational, so if you wanted to pray or just meditate or whatever you want. And that's how the Parthenon actually was. They had separate rooms inside. It was sort of similar to that for different areas. There'd be statues in different locations. But so here's sort of the inside. You could be inside and still see out through the glass and like appreciate the area around it. And so this would be, if in the winter it was too cold to actually be outside of the area, you could go inside the sliding glass curtain and then be protected from the elements, but still be able to appreciate nature. There's not much decorations, like statues and stuff, as the Parthenon would have, because as I said, it would be open to all, and just a place for, I guess, to incorporate wellness. And there would also be an outdoor area past the building that you could, was also lined, that you could go and really sort of go to the top of this cliff and appreciate the area around it. And here are more pictures of the design. And here you can see the solar panels on top of the roof that would power the PD, power the LED lights inside. And that's it. Any questions?
Leave a picture up.
Do you have a location in mind for this, or else did you just
No,
figure on top of
I
that?
kind of just, I made what I could.
Okay.
And tried to make it look like a nice.
Just curious, because I was also gonna ask for the grass, the part on the inside where you have the ground exposed. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
No? Did you, okay.
But,
I thought you said
Oh,
that
like-
after you go inside, there's an area where it's ground.
no.
No? Okay, sorry, my bad. Scratch it.
Yes.
So what was your inspiration for coming up with this design?
Like I said, well, first off, the Thorncrown Chapel was like, that really, I thought about that a lot. And, oh wow, incorporating, I like the idea of, there's a glass chapel, you can see outside if you're still protected from the elements. And then also just really interested in ancient Greece and the Parthenon. So I sort of just combined those two and tried to make it, I guess, impressive, like the Parthenon is like a large building.
It also reminds me of a Chinese pavilion in the way that the Chinese pavilions were designed just to put a roof over your head in a beautiful place so you could contemplate what was there,
Right.
even though using kind of other proportions. And you think about the national parks and how people go for a lookout place or
Right.
kind of a location. They go there to contemplate nature. You could almost see it having that kind of use. I mean, that sounds like a little more like just recreational, but people do go to contemplate nature for the kind of spiritual effect that it has on them. So it could have that kind of a function too in a, close to a national park or in some kind of a scenic area.
Right.
We fit beautifully at Crater Lake, or we fit beautifully on the Washington coast in Puget Sound.
Yeah.
Lends itself to that.
Can you go back a few slides to when you had that rock beach? Yeah, that's. Were you thinking about maybe putting a railing there or something? Because
That's sort of why I, yeah, That's sort of why I had those rocks lining it, sort of, keep people away from the edge
It
and
doesn't
kind
look
of know.
incredibly
but-
safe. How
Yeah.
high up is that? I'm just wondering.
I didn't measure, it's pretty high though, but there maybe be like, yeah, some more safety precautions.
Did you create like the mountains in program, or were you able to?
Yeah, so the mountains that, like, all of this area, like the water and surrounding it, not those mountains, but a pretty wide radius around the building, I did.
Wondering about accessibility, just for like a day trip, or
I mean,
with the landscape thing, how do you get there, I guess, is the question. Or is that for,
I didn't really consider that, I'm not like proposing this, I don't have a place in mind, it's more hypothetical. So it would depend on where the location was and everything like that.
I was just curious, did you think about where it would sit before you designed it, or did you decide, I'm gonna build a apartment on it and pick materials based on that? You know, a lot of times architects like to consider local materials and reuse and that sort of thing, so how much of that would have to be hauled up?
Yeah, true. No, I mostly, when thinking of materials, just thought of trying to make it model as closely to the Parthenon as I could in that regard, but more modernized.
Could you go back to your plan, your floor plan? Yeah, of course, I recognize that from the Parthenon, I understand what you're trying to do, and that you don't want anything like a statue or an
Right.
idol, so that it's non-denominational, but you might consider something,
Right. like-
so that it isn't cell-like if it's closed off.
Mhm.
It could be, could be water, it could be, if you have a skylight, it could be a small, like a kind of planter or something that is kind of a focal point for
Like
meditation.
a rock garden or something.
Yeah, rock garden, even like a Zen type garden where nobody has to maintain it.
Right.
But just so it isn't, like a cell.
True.
It isn't like just a box since everything else is open. And the other thing is, it's a nice design, it could be scaled down for different locations, because it's
Right.
basically a viewing
Right.
pavilion.